What's going on YouTube? Big Dog Brett. Today we're going to be going over the Clemson's 2019 players who I think is going to be the best and who's returning. So we'll see how their team turns out. We'll be right back. All right, guys. So first, I think it's fair that we have to address kind of where the team has lost some things and where they've got some good things coming back. So I'm going to do my best to give you guys an accurate representation. Obviously, I'm a Georgia fan, and I don't want this to be I don't want it to come off as seeming that I'm trying to talk down the team, because I'm not. I'm trying to give an accurate representation of what I think the team's going to be next year, good, bad, and otherwise. So I'm going to give you guys my top 10 and some additional. So I try to do the top 10 plus one. So we'll go from here, guys. All right, so let's start out with really what they lost. Last year, they won the national championship. They had some phenomenal players, and they lost a lot of talent. They got a lot of talent coming back, but let's talk about let's talk about what they lost. So let's start with the linebacker. Lost to the NFL, Trey Lamar, second best tackler on the team, went to the NFL. Kendall Joseph is graduating. Had a loss in the secondary with Trayvon Mullen, but I believe he's the only one. He also went to the NFL. I'll talk about the D-line in a minute. You lost Mitch Hyatt, who's an All-American O-line. He's gone. Justin Falcinelli, All-ACC. He's gone. You lost all 4 starters on the defensive line. And you lost your second best running back, at least in my opinion, in Lynn J. Dixon. So I think the biggest loss would have to be Farrell. The guy had 12 sacks last year. He lived in the backfield. You have to have at least, at a minimum, of four other players combined on the defense to get anywhere near 12 sacks. Across their whole defense, you can pick any 4 guys, and on average, you're not going to get 12 sacks amongst them. This guy was the havoc maker. He was the havoc creator. He was the reason that teams feared the defense. And he's gone. Now, there are still some really talented guys on defense, no doubt about that. But this guy, there's nobody, I don't think there's anybody in all of college football this year that's going to be on that guy's level. I just don't. And it's tough losing a guy like that, but you know, somehow you got to figure it out. You got to next man up. So let's talk about start at my number 10 spot. Defensive back, this is returning or playing this year. Defensive back, Kevon Wallace. Last year had 36 tackles and 1 interception. As a defensive back, this guy did a great job of making sure that if you threw the ball in his direction, if they caught the ball, he's putting him in the dirt. If not, if the ball goes somewhere else, he's over there trying to make a play. Great vision, moves around well on the field. He's complemented very well by the number 9 returning guy, cornerback A.J. Terrell, with 40 tackles and 3 interceptions. Now I'm gonna go to the linebacker, but I'm gonna come back to A.J. Terrell. The defensive back, the cornerbacks, and the safeties really did a good job of working in tandem. The secondary was very strong. Tanner Muse passed up, going to the NFL to return. This guy, I've got him at my number 7 spot, but I got to jump to number 8 with the linebacker Isaiah Simmons, 55 tackles. I think he's going to have a great year this year. He's really going to be expected to kind of fill the role of that sack machine. I know he's not a line guy. I know he's a safety guy, but this guy's job just got a lot harder, because now he's got to try and navigate to get those tackles and to get in the backfield and be disruptive. I think this is where they're going to be looking for their new havoc maker to live, or to be. Safety, Tanner Muse, I just mentioned him. He's coming in at my number 7 spot. Safety, he's a senior this year with 31 tackles and 2 interceptions last year. This guy, again, was all over the field. Just another guy with great vision. Always found himself in the right place. Always put his team in the best place. Just doing a great job. Then we got to talk about. Then we basically have to go to the receivers, and this is strictly based off of their performance last year. Hunter Renfrow, 49 receptions for 544 yards. He's back. Amari Rodgers, 55 receptions, 575 yards. T. Higgins, 59 receptions, 936 yards. And he was only edged out with just a few yards by Justin Ross with 1,000 yards at 46 receptions. Justin Ross seems to be able to get a lot more yards out of his catches than these other three receivers, but that's really why he's at the number 3 spot and then 4, 5, and 6 respectively. These guys seem to have about the same amount of receptions for about the same amount of yards. When you jump from Amari Rodgers to T. Higgins, I know that's a number 5 to a number 4 spot jump, but that gap there is huge between the 4 and 5 spot. T. Higgins, with only 4 more receptions, picks up about an additional 350 yards, and he was keeping pace as far as overall yards with Justin Ross. Justin Ross got even more yards on less receptions. That's why he's at the number 3 spot. The guy's a beast. Now let's talk about the 2 best guys here. And I don't even need this. I made some notes, but I don't need them. You've got Trevor Lawrence, who is arguably one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football for many, many years. I'm going to say the same thing about Trevor Lawrence that I said about Tua Tagovailoa. He's a great quarterback. I think Trevor Lawrence is by far and large way better than Tua. But I also think his numbers are inflated with the fact that he has 4 outstanding receivers to throw to. These guys are tall. These guys are fast. They're going to go. Almost every one of these guys is going to be a first-round draft pick. There's no doubt. They're talented. They're fast. They're good at what they do. They know how to leverage. They can reach out there and get the ball. Most teams don't have anybody that can compete with them. I mean, if you had 2 of these guys, let's say that you took their number 1 guy and their number 2 guy. Let's say you take Justin Ross and then you take Hunter Renfrow, right? Number 1, number 4 as far as receivers go. They're still going to put a ton of numbers on the board just having these 2 receivers that can catch. So look for these receivers to be highly active, just like they were last year. Not much has changed. Now, you couple that with a running back like ETN. Guy's awesome. 1,658 yards last year. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's averaging like 120 yards plus a game. That's a lot of yards. If you handed this guy the ball, he's going downfield in a hurry. A big part of that is because they had some great guys on the offensive line that could create gaps, but a lot of it was because ETN is just a phenomenal running back. So I've got ETN at number 2. I've got Trevor Lawrence at number 1. And I think the reason that you have to list those guys that way is because I think that Trevor Lawrence would still be able to be extremely competitive at any level just with his arm talent. The guy's amazing. Too bad he didn't come to Georgia. He's originally from Georgia. But too bad we couldn't keep him around UGA. Would have loved to have had him, especially with the talent he has. And for all the Georgia fans who want to say you would rather have Jake Fromm than Trevor Lawrence, well, miss me with that, because that is insane. Trevor Lawrence threw for 3,280 yards with 30 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. The numbers speak for themselves. I will say that I have to get back to the point about Tua. His numbers are a little bit inflated because he has such great talent to throw to. However, I feel like his numbers would still be astronomical, even if he just had one elite receiver. I still feel like his numbers would still be around the 2,800 mark. I'd still feel like he'd find a way to be at 27 or 28 touchdowns. That's just the way I feel. And for that guy to be a freshman and come in and do that, this guy's good. If he improves at all over last year, which he should, you know, you gotta say that guy's definitely a Heisman Trophy candidate if they hadn't already given it to him, you know, by the time the season starts. The D-line, though, is a little bit of a concern for me for Clemson. Their defensive line is all four of their defensive starters went to the NFL. So they've got all brand new defensive guys. This can be a problem. Now, there's some talented guys behind them. I don't doubt that a bit, but are they this talented? I can't say that. I really can't. I think that if offenses can get out there and continue to move the ball and keep it away from Trevor Lawrence, grind clock, there's a chance you're going to see a different kind of ball club out of Clemson. Now, Clemson's still going to be dominant. Clemson's still going to be elite. But you cannot make me believe that with the amount of talent that they lost last year, that they're going to be 100% as good as they were. That they're not. No team would. No team would. Clemson does a pretty good job of recruiting. Dabo Swinney does an excellent job of finding the players he wants for specific jobs and specific roles. He wants them to be 5 stars, but that's not what he's looking for. He's looking for the best fit for his machine, and he does a fine job of finding it. You can't argue with that. One of the things that they listed the starting roster, the secondary was A.J. Terrell. I absolutely on board with that pick. Mario Goodrich, I don't know. Tanner Muse, absolutely on board with that. And Kayvon Wallace, you know, I'm on board with that. But I don't know how good that secondary is going to be this year. So we've got a secondary that's pretty good, really good. We got a defensive line. We don't know what that's going to give you. We've got a offensive line. We don't know what that's going to give you. Your talent positions are still stacked, but I don't feel like Clemson is as complete of a unit as they were last year. They're still an elite team, no doubt. Still should be ranked number 1, no doubt. But I think they stepped down just a little bit. Very well still could win the national championship. They have the talent, they have the coaching. There's no problem admitting that this team is going to absolutely trash 90% of the teams they play. A little bit worried about some of these players that they're putting in that defensive line. Can they hold up? And, you know, what's the depth like behind them? But every team goes through that. So we'll see how it turns out. I think they're going to have a great returning class. They had a lot of good talent coming back. So, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And as always, God bless. Go Dogs.